Can you hear me, Jukka?
Yes, I do.
Good. Great, I see that people are joining the webinar. Welcome all. Let's wait a few minutes before we start so we can see that everybody who wants to join can join. So let's start in 2 minutes. Before we start the discussion, we want that and we wish that this will be a webinar that has interaction, of course, and we wish that you will write in the chat area some notes or some questions. And we try to answer the questions and take them with us here on the webinar during the dialogue with Jukka and me, but at least in the end of the webinar, let's see them through. But please use the chat and ask questions and join the discussion. Hello, Mindaugas. Great. I think we are ready to start, and about the schedule, we will have 45 minutes time to have a dialogue here, and during that time period, you will hear when Jukka and I will discuss about the supplier experience and why is that so important today, this will also be recorded, so we will find it afterwards from our channels. And of course, we will inform you about the next webinar when that occurs. But let's start the discussion and welcome everybody, and welcome Jukka Vesalainen. It's a great pleasure to have you here in the webinar.
Thank you, Matti.
Jukka is a professor at the University of Vaasa, and you have been studying organizational research or organization research 30 years or more.
More.
Yeah, and you have been concentrating on the manufacturing industry and companies there, and network business environment and ecosystems. So I think that this topic is really familiar for you.
Yeah, you can say so.
Yeah.
I think especially the business relationships are quite common to me, and I think also to you.
Yeah, that's right. This year has been quite different for all of us, and we all know why. And maybe some things has risen more or less, have brightened the different things, that what is crucial and what is not. And we have listened our customers at Jakamo, and we have been in close dialogue with our customers, and of course those people who work in procurement are really cares a lot about the supplier experience, how they can perform towards us, towards the customer, and during these times at COVID-19, the importance has risen tremendously, because you want to be that customer that is served first, and that's why the supplier experience has the importance of that has risen a lot. And we don't mean by supplier experience a experienced supplier. We mean the concept like user experience or employee experience or customer experience. And actually employee experience and the customer experience are really close between each other and in connection between each other. And today we want to discuss about the supplier experience and fill the gaps of what do we mean about that. And from my opinion is that the procurement professionals already knows that of course if you want to be customer driven, customer patient, supply collaboration, and that's something we and the procurement professionals want to highlight, that this is not only procurement's issue, it's whole organization's issue. Everybody needs to understand the role of the suppliers when they establish value for the end customer. When establishing value for the end customer, that's something that we have been discussing. We have been discussed a lot during this year. What do you think about this concept, supplier experience, Jukka?
Well, yeah, it's quite nice new invention in the conceptual world, but I'd like to come a little bit back in time. As you well remember that we have a common history. 15 years ago, we started to consult business relationships, as you quite could really remember, right? So we let's say in 10 years, we consulted about 300 business relationships in mechanical industry. And in those days, we sat in quite many tables with the customer and with the supplier, and then we actually found out that the relationships were not always so good, and quite many times it can be traced back to the fact that the customer doesn't actually treat well the suppliers. And I think the basic reason for that was that the customers at that time, especially, they thought about that the supplier people are not like employees, but they were representatives of other companies, and there's a kind of a market mechanism between us, and we don't have to actually take care about the social psychological things between the companies, like motivation, commitment, and things like that. But I think that the idea of supplier experience dates back to those days, actually, and as we found out that it's not so well treated, the business relationship from the customer side, and of course there were some reasons at the supplier side also in those days. But yeah, I think that the roots of the supplier experience definition and the concept as such came from that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's quite as I said to you earlier that when we try to find down some literature on supplier experience and made some searches from internet, I didn't find anything but articles on suppliers experience, which means that our suppliers are experienced on certain tasks or anything like that. But the term and the concept supplier experience doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But as you said, we have the employee experience, which comes quite close to supplier experience. And especially if we understand supplier experience also as a social psychological concept.
Yeah.
And then I think that comes true when we think about the customer-supplier relationship as a boundary organization where people from both parties actually meet.
Yes.
It was a social psychological thing then.
Yeah, exactly. Jukka, they are writing that your voice is hard to hear, so please, if you can speak a little bit louder, so the participants will hear you better. And there was some problem in
the microphone also.
Yeah, there was some problem in the line, but I see that they have refreshed the page, so it helped many. So let's continue. We have 4 topics to discuss today related to the supplier experience, and one is the open governance. What does that mean under this topic? And operational transparency is something that has been discussed a lot during the year, and workflow automation is something also really connected to supplier experience, and excellent interaction. That's something our people has said in the context that what is really crucial, but sometimes quite hard to solve. How to establish that kind of channel or ways of working where the excellent interaction is available. Let's start about the open governance. Open governance, and we have met that topic lately, especially in bigger corporations who govern the master data or the vendor master data, supplier master data in big systems, and try to communicate also with the suppliers about what kind of requirements, what kind of information they need from their suppliers, and that's something that has risen, and we have been talking about the governance which is open. What do you think about that? What do you mean with the open governance?
Well, first I'd like to go a little bit back. So when I look those themes you have just introduced us, I think that especially the first 2 themes relate to supply chain transparency as a whole phenomenon. And when we look at the literature of supply chain transparency, we can find 5 different types of transparencies there. We have kind of cost and price transparency, and that refers to the open books principles in supply chain, as you well know. Then we have the kind of called supply chain transparency, meaning that the logistics chain is open. I mean warehouses and logistics as such, and that is open for the participants of the supply chain.
Yeah.
And then we have so-called organizational transparency. That simply means that people know who are who in partner organizations. So what is the roles of the boundary spanning personnel of both companies in a relationship?
Yeah.
And then we have technological transparency, which actually relates to the development tasks, both systems and manufacturing system development and also product development. And it goes so that when the parties of a relationship want to involve each other into development, then you have to actually share technological information, which is quite sensitive quite many times. So it's quite an interesting task as such. And then in the end, we have the fifth type of transparency, that is strategic transparency. And that means, of course, that the companies in a relationship want to share each other kind of future plans and strategies. And what is also very important is that they actually develop their own kind of strategy for the relationship. And that is something quite many pairs of partners in a relationship don't do. Actually, they don't speak loud about the future of their relationship. That would be very important. And then after this short introduction, I'd like to come to your question, and you ask about the open governance, and I think there are two parts in a way. So that the first part is strategic, and that means, as I said, actually it comes pretty close to the strategic transparency, meaning that the company should share strategic information so that there will be a future for the relationship also. And then there is also a kind of more operational part of the open governance, meaning that companies share some kind of operational data. They have a kind of a common platform where to actually submit information, and it's available there. What is actually interesting when we're talking about transparency and sharing information, you have actually two or maybe more ways to share the information, but in principle, one way to share information is that you actively share a piece of information. So I send you a kind of email, for example, so then I share the information to you. The other way to do that is that you have a kind of a common platform where you actually submit information, and that information is available there. And then the other part of the relationship is if they need the information, they go there and get it. So you don't have to actively share the information in time and place, but the information is there. And in older days, companies used to have these platforms and own platforms, and where they submitted information and give access to others to the platform. But now, as we know quite well, the shared information repositories are in cloud.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay, so you merged two first topics to one, and let's continue with that framework. I would like to talk about the strategic transparency, and you mentioned some future plans to have this kind of strategic targets together with suppliers. Of course, you can't do that with all the suppliers, but probably with the main suppliers that deliver the highest value and takes part on R&D and have big volumes, for example. But you said that's interesting. That you said that the companies, customer and supplier, should have a common strategy or common targets. Explain what kind of how can they do it? do they establish a paper with some targets, or what do they do?
Yeah, we used to have, and we still have, a kind of tool called Partnership Monitor, which actually measures the business relationship from 4 different dimensions. And actually, we used to have, as I mentioned, we have consulted business relations for quite much, and that tool actually opens up the relationship, and it enables the parties of a relationship to analyze the present situation of the relationship, and then they can use the same tool to set up and define the future situation for the relationship. And the gap actually there shows you the development needs for a relationship, but most importantly, the future state definition of a relationship means that you have actually a common strategy to go, and then that makes the relationship like a living thing, that it's a kind of an object you have to develop. And, the whole thing in our consultancy on that day was that we have to make, we would like to make the relationship visible in a way. But as you said, that there are many kinds of relationships, and when we're talking about partnerships and more development kind of relationships, not all relationships are that kind of. So if your relationship to some supplier is thin or kind of an arm's length relationship, you don't need to actually develop it further. If the exchange between you and the supplier is, very standardized, and there are a lot of suppliers in the market that supply that kind of goods and raw material, whatever. So it differs. It differs, and the main thing is that if the exchange is demanding, then you have a reason to develop a relationship toward the partnership.
Yeah. So your message is that choose the most important suppliers and establish a common strategy with them, including KPIs, commonly agreed KPIs, both ways, of course, and some values in qualitative values, and maybe some behavior values also.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
The thing is that in those more developed relationships, partnerships, and relationships like that, the openness and the transparency actually makes the kind of use of market mechanism not needed anymore, because it's kind of another way to ensure that the customer gets the best possible service from the supplier, and the openness there, the thing.
Yeah.
You don't have to use the market mechanism as such to ensure that the best possible service is there.
Yeah, and I think that will also improve the motivation and this kind of how both parties behave towards each other, especially when it's hard time or difficult situation. So they are eager to help, or they are eager to adopt new things or new ways of working, new technology, invest relation-specific investments, and that kind of things. So the open governance is one of the answers for that.
True.
Okay, and we can call it strategic transparency or organizational transparency as well.
Yeah, quite right. I think the organizational transparency relates to that also, especially to the operational side of open governance.
Yeah. Good. Let's move ahead, and if there's some questions you want to ask, please do it, and we try to react and respond to them during the discussion. On the industry, there has been the automation of different processes. Really, it has been topical maybe 20-30 years already. Something has also been automated in supply chain side also, especially in the logistic side, but recently the supply chain information and this kind of supply chain workflow automation has risen as a hot topic, and companies are searching different options to do it. Of course, we know this kind of traditional EDI connection. It works if we discuss about the purchase order side, order confirmation, and that kind of thing. But how do you see the workflow automation when we talk about different processes between customer and supplier? Is there something that you could like enrich this concept? Is there something that we don't see?
Okay, enrich. Okay. Rich. So I think the most important one between companies. So we're now talking about interorganizational workflows. And one of the most important workflow, especially when we're talking about information flows, is the purchase sales orders.
Yeah.
And that is something which is quite cost and work consuming in ordinary systems, because in both companies you have to actually do some quite much manual work when you type in orders, first in the customer side, and then secondly in the supplier side. So if ERP systems can be integrated so that the data flows freely between ERP systems of supplier and customer, then you can save quite much time. And I think that is the most important workflow that concerns interorganizational relationships.
Yeah.
But then if we enlarge the discussion from pure automation to standardization. So then as we know, for example, in Jakamo there are certain functionalities that are digitalized upon the business processes. For example, claims handling, and if in these kind of processes you can build in some kind of obligatory tasks. For example, that if a claim actually occurs, then you have to go through a kind of root cause analysis together before you get rid of that claim actually. So that kind of standard procedure helps you to move from the operational handling of things to the continuous improvement of things between companies.
That's right.
And then standardization is the key.
Yeah, and in that way you automate the behavior and the processes when you standardize.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. That's a interesting point. To how to enlarge the view of that topic. Is there something else you have recognized on this area?
Well, I've been thinking about quite much about this IoT. Everyone knows what is IoT, Internet of Things. So that means a connection and integration between things, machines, and everything. But I've been thinking that there is also another type of internet that is Internet of Organizations. So as organizations are not things as such because they are living in a way. They are social psychological systems and people working there, so they are not things. But then we have to kind of rethink the idea of Internet of Organizations. So especially different kind of platforms and ERP to ERP connections and so on are connections between organizations actually. And then we have to think that a bit differently than the systems and platforms that actually make available the Internet of Things type of connections.
That's right.
So there are, I think there are different kind of tools in the Internet of Organizations area, as we know.
Exactly. Heikki, hello Heikki. Heikki is asking how do we see the role of AI to improve the transactional collaboration between companies, and this is really hot topic. How to utilize and what kind of use cases there has been in AI and how AI can be used in the future. I think in transactional collaboration, where the topics are very high, AI could play a good role. For example, when you can measure the lead times of big volumes per supplier relationship, you are able to monitor and make these kind of rules that the machine learning or AI notices when there's some differences in the lead times, for example. That's one example. Of course, the volumes needs to be quite big, and same is also what we have been thinking. How could it be utilized? How could AI be utilized in dialogue? What is our next topic? The excellent interaction. Could AI, for example, warn the participants who are in the discussion that in this discussion there is the tone is angry or whatever? So could it be some kind of a flagging that, hey, concentrate on this, that this purchase order, that there is some issues maybe upcoming because the tone is this kind. There can be many variations of that, but we have been in our team, we have been discussing about the possibilities on that. How about you, Jukka? Have you seen many use cases where AI is used?
Not in the supply chain management area, because the main point, as you quite right pointed out, is that we don't many times have enough data for the use of AI. But that actually we haven't talked that earlier, but it sounds quite interesting to me to use the kind of qualitative data from communication to actually dig deeper on the communication and find out what is the tone in there, and as we are approaching the next theme, the excellent interaction, I think that it could have interesting to find out that if a certain business relationship, the rhetorics seems to be threatening or not so positive in its basic tone. So that could be a sign to actually move to another type of rhetorics.
Yeah.
Maybe in both sides of the business relation. That may signal something.
Yeah.
But I don't actually know if there's any applications on that. I doubt that actually, but they have to be built up. So that could be one good idea for you to invest in the future.
Yeah. About the rhetorics, I know that you have been studying rhetorics in the supply chain. Explain why that's important.
Yeah, the question is that how people actually try to strengthen their messages by using some kind of strengthening approaches. So we made a research on purchasers' rhetorics.
Yeah.
We developed a tool, and then we sent it over to thousands of purchasers, and many hundreds of them actually replied. And we found out that there are actually 4 types of rhetorics when we talk about how the purchasers actually talk to their suppliers. And in the rhetorics kind of theory, there are 3 possible ways to approach the counterpart. The first way is to use kind of a relational rhetorics. Let's say, for example, that if my supplier have kind of a quality problem, I would say to him or her that okay, you have a quality problem in your supplies. Could we, with our experts, explore this together and maybe solve the problem? So that is my rhetoric then.
Yeah.
And then using another type of rhetoric, for example, a kind of a market-based rhetoric, I would say that okay, you have a quality problem, but you have to know that there is plenty of suppliers in the market that willingly are serving us. So if you don't put your quality on place, then maybe you have to choose another one. So then I kind of enforce my message through market mechanism kind of rhetoric. And then we have a hierarchical type of mechanism rhetorics, the same idea that you have a quality problem, and then I would say like at okay, you have a problem, and in our contract says that if you don't put your quality in place at the level it should be, then I have these and these sanctions to put on you after this. So again, a kind of a threat.
Yeah.
And then we measured the rhetorics and found 4 types. One type is neutral. So one type of purchasers don't actually use any kind of enforcing rhetorics. The other type is kind of relational ones, and they use only kind of relational rhetoric. And then we have one type which uses market and hierarchy-based rhetorics. That means that only threats.
Yeah.
And then we have a 4th type which actually uses every kind of those rhetorics, meaning that they are kind of situationally behaved types. That if a relationship needs to have a tough hand, then they use tough hand, and otherwise they use relational things. Type of talking. So that is quite important. As I said in the beginning, that we actually witnessed this kind of behavior when we sat in the same tables with the customers and suppliers, and even in those tables we found that they used different kind of rhetorics. They were quite nasty towards each other many times. So that is the way how people talk to each other has a quite big importance for the motivation and commitment, of course.
Yeah. But which type of those was performing best?
The hybrid ones.
Yeah.
Those who can actually choose a style when it's needed.
Switch the style to different in different yeah, and
Yeah, that's right.
maybe also notice the situation that okay, now I need to speak this way and behave this way. Okay.
And the worst ones were the neutral ones, and also the kind of threatening types who only used hierarchical and market-based rhetoric.
Yeah, but you mean also that you can't only be the relational.
No.
That's not effective. Yeah. Okay.
No.
Interesting. Yeah, but about the excellent interaction, this was a long introduction for that, but we see that it's a one crucial cornerstone of the good and strong supplier experience. And for example, today during this exceptional times, it's not easy to drive this kind of excellent interaction because we can't meet each other. We need to have the physical distance. What do you think about that?
About actually discussing over the internet.
Yeah, and about how to drive the excellent interaction nowadays, and what kind of.
Well, I think that in addition to the rhetorics I just mentioned, that good interaction should be coordinated. So as we know, especially in the partnership type of relationships, where the interaction is multifaceted. So quite many people are in contact to each other in a business relationship. So then it's a challenge to coordinate the ideas and meanings. So then I think the platforms and kind of digitalized systems are in good position to help companies to coordinate the interaction with many parties. So of course any system can actually do the 100% of the coordination, but you have to of course develop kind of business processes and practices which help you to coordinate the interaction. But I think there's quite much help from good platforms there.
Yeah. So concentrate on the rhetorics, what you use, and notice what kind of situation you have, and the second one is the try to coordinate the interaction to people in that way that they have it when they need it and it's available for them.
And a very good example of uncoordinated interaction is emailing. So that is the maximum of kind of uncoordinated interaction companies.
Yeah.
And one thing I would like to add here is also that I think that in good communication and good interaction, there is always also a kind of development orientation. So you're not happy with the only to handle the operational things and daily routines, but you have to also remember the developmental side also. We can make this better all the time. Yeah.
So future orientation in the interaction as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then one thing to add here is that we have to be always sure that are we discussing operational things at the moment now, or are we discussing developmental things? Because we can't actually mix them up. We have to, concentrate on certain things per time. So the conversation and discussion is meaningful.
Good. We are soon ending the discussion, but in like a wrap up, I wanted to ask you what is crucial for companies from higher perspective, how to build a strong supplier experience. What you would answer on that question as a tip or as advice for companies who wants to get stronger in that area?
Well, I wrote a short paper on Jakamo's magazine, where I tried to explain and open up a bit about the kind of theoretical roots and the nature of supplier experience, and that is there. I want to repeat that here, but I would say that from a little bit different perspective, I would say that there are three important main areas in a business relationship which actually make the supplier experience to occur, and they are integration, interaction, and social capital. So integration means that there is going to there's created a kind of a so-called quasi-organization between companies. So there are common structures and common processes which are acknowledged from both sides. So there are working pairs, there are development teams and quality teams and whatever, and also processes are described, and the people from both companies know how to act with this supplier and this customer. So that is integration, and of course the integration today is more or less digital.
Yeah.
Then we have and what comes to digital platforms and the systems, we all quite well know that if the systems are not working, we are not happy with them. So systems should be good enough, and what is important also in business relationships is that the systems serve both parties. They serve the customer and they serve also the supplier. And then we have the interaction, and we have actually thought about the quality of interaction already. So I think we know about that. But the interaction and integration, of course, have a common kind of a relationship also. So they're connected. So if you have good integration, so your companies are integrated, maybe digitally also, and then you have a possibility to interact in a good way.
Yeah.
And the third part of this kind of a theory.
And before that, I think that that's related or connected also with the open governance, what we talked about.
That's true. Before. This all comes together.
Yes.
As we thought. Yes, that's true. And then the third part of the kind of a formula is the social capital, and that means trust, commitment, and common values in a relationship, and that it's clear that all these have a kind of connections to each other. And the connections are two-way connections, so that if you have a good social capital in a relationship, that enables you to interact more kind of a
openly and
good way and openly. And then of course when you have a good interaction, so you don't use kind of threats and that kind of rhetorics that is harmful. So then you also can build trust and commitment in the relationship. They are interlinked, all these three ways. So I would say that if companies want to, especially if customer firms want to develop a positive supplier experience, they could concentrate on these three areas, and then integration, interaction, and social capital. And it's quite difficult actually if all these are low. So if you have a low relationship, low trust in your relationship, then it's quite hard to build the openness. So the question is where to start, and then you have to start from somewhere.
Yeah, Jussi is asking what was the study that we referred in the beginning. What was studied, how, and what was the outcome in brief? I don't know. Was that about the rhetorics or what does Jussi mean in this comment? But
yeah,
or was it or maybe it was that what you have studied in general?
What comes to the article I referred to, it deals with purchase. The name of the article was Purchasers as Boundary Spanners.
Okay, yeah. We will find the article and send it to you, Jussi, after this webinar. Okay, now the time's up. I want to thank everybody who has joined this webinar, and it was a pleasure to discuss with you, Jukka. Thank you a lot. And you will find this as recorded in our channels in Jakamo, and of course also in Jakamo's online magazine, supplierexperience.com, and we will of course inform you about the next webinar when we will arrange that. So thank you all, and wishing you good holidays when that time begins. Thank you and bye.
Bye-bye.